Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Bob Scarborough.
And I'm John Gaber.
And we are
The
the FAIRtax
FAIRtax
Guys
Guys.
plus one today. Now, Scarborough, how do you like my gear ball? This is not a Rubik's Cube. This is a gear ball.
How did that thing fall out of orbit?
I know, but I caught it out in the front yard the other day.
That's right. I'd probably mowed over a few of those in my lifetime.
Oh,
That's
mercy.
exciting. Why is that? How is that different from the square Rubik's Cube?
I don't know how well you can see. This is actually, it's got little gears in there that turn as you get. You can see that gear turn. And this one's actually really easy to solve because it is so interconnected. You just get one part of it right, and the rest of it falls into place.
Falls into place. Wow, that's cool.
So we might.
So that's not like the income tax.
No.
This is more like the flat tax or whatever. But how that goes. Okay, well, let's get going on here with FAIRtax Power Radio. And we're actually going to forego my favorite part, the Congress.gov, since we have our guest John Gaver with us today. And we have been, as the tax filing deadline has approached, we have been really banging hard on the IRS here on FAIRtax Power Radio for the past several episodes. We want to switch the focus back the other way to focus on the fair tax, what's right with the fair tax more so than what's wrong with the Internal Revenue Service. And what I really want to get into is we've had several of the candidates that we interviewed say it's a lot easier to just elect someone to office who already supports the fair tax than it is to change the mind of someone who has already been elected to office and is not necessarily a fair tax supporter. So I figured, all right, let's do a show on how do we get candidates to A, introduced to the fair tax, and B, convinced to support it. And in that regard, I figured there's nobody better in the country to talk to than John Gaber, who is, in this past primary season ranked up six candidates that signed the candidates pledge. That was it. Okay, well, let's kind of start from ground one. Assume that your races, there's some primaries that haven't happened yet. For people who are still, looking forward to their primaries, how do fair tax volunteers, A, get a hold of candidates, and B, convince them to support the fair tax? John, go.
Okay, well, the first thing you do is go out to fec.gov, search for candidates running in your district. In our districts here, we have Democrats running as well as Republicans, but we'll have one Democrat and half a dozen Republicans or more. We at one time had 14 running to replace Kevin Brady. I think about 6 of them actually made it to election primary day. But I chose to focus on the Republicans because that's the race that's going to win in this part of the country. If you're in a part of the country where a Democrat's going to win, focus on them. But you can go out to fec.gov, put in your state, your district, and you can get a list of every candidate who has announced and, is following the FEC guidelines and everything. And from there, you can search ballotpedia.org. Ballotpedia will have all this information about them, any contact information that they might have, pictures of them, and they'll have their website. The next thing to do is go out to the website and see if they say anything about the fair tax. If they already support the fair tax, then you don't have to worry about that one. Go to the others and say, hey, Joe Blow over here is supporting fair tax. Why aren't you? And that's a very easy approach, is you're telling them you have someone who is competing in the same race who is already signed on to support the fair tax. Because you can go get him to sign it and sign the pledge, right away, because he's already said on his website he supports it. You're not likely to find that. If you don't, you find something like one of our candidates had a no IRS circle with the line through it on his website and a statement about eliminating the IRS, but he didn't have a plan. I called him. I talked to him about the fair tax. Just like that, I had a sign. Once I got him to sign, I'm able to go to others and say, hey, I think that was Dan McCon. I said, Dan signed it, so why haven't you? And I ended up getting 2 more people in that district to sign. So once you have one, you can bounce off of that to use the fact that you have a competitor who's already signed the pledge. And
I'm having some audio issues here, John. Are you fairly close to your microphone?
I'm using a headset here. I don't know if that's
okay. Okay, that will just kind of sit still if you can. We're hearing some extraneous noise there. Go ahead.
okay. Are you getting wind?
Yeah, you're kind of.
I may have to go inside then. I just was using my outdoor thing, but it's windy today, though. It's windier than it's supposed to
That
be.
could be it. It could be the wind. But hey, you know what? I love what you're doing. I think that's great. You find one guy that's interested, you get him signed up, then you bring somebody else in. Make the next call. So you go to the FEC website, then you go to Ballotpedia, and then you go to make the phone calls. And of course,
you go to each individual's website and learn about that individual, because when you talk to them, you want to be able to say, yeah, I know you support this and I like that. And I know you support that and I like that. And you can talk about what they have. You're paying attention to them. They don't want you just to come in. They see so many people come in and say, support my bill, support my bill. I don't care about anything else. I don't know who you are. I just want you to support my bill. They don't like that. It's natural. So what you have to do is learn about them, learn about what you've got a family and you've got 2 daughters. And you live in this part of the country and you've lived here for 25 years. Well, you can talk to them about that when you meet them, and they're going to be a lot more receptive to you coming forward than saying, okay, let's talk about the fair tax.
I love it. That's great. That's the first thing.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is get a copy of the FAIRtax book, or get a copy of my book. That's what I did, but I get my book for, at cost, but you can get the FAIRtax book real cheap. Take a copy with you and give it to them so that they have something that they can refer to when they want to learn about the fair tax and have talking points and fair tax card.
There's that wind noise again. Sorry.
You put it in there. You put something in their hand other than just a piece of paper. If they've got a book that's 144 pages or whatever the number of pages it is, they're not going to necessarily toss that off to the side or in the back seat of their car or hand it off to an associate. They're going to take it and look at it. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. What I like about your strategy is that you have systematically deployed conversations about the fair tax into the campaigns of multiple people in the same district, so that no matter which town hall, which debate, no matter which church supper they show up at for conversation, they're going to have the fair tax. When they stand in front of a microphone, they're going to be going through their list of, here's what I stand for. And the fair tax comes out of half a dozen people's mouths that you can't help but think about it when you're just in the general population. And it goes back to the original thought that a lot of people have told us, instead of trying to change people's minds in Washington, D.C., let's get some new people up there.
Get new minds.
Yeah.
Don't change the minds, get new minds.
Right.
So you found out, folks know that I'm a bit of a NASCAR fan, and there is a saying in the NASCAR races that cautions breed cautions, so once you've had one, the caution bunches the field back up and you restart, you're likely to have another one. So you're saying that pledge signings breed other pledge signings. Am I reading that properly?
Yes, it gives you a statement to go on that,
That's great.
if you're going to be running against Joe Blow, and then once you have Joe Blow and John Doe both are signed, now it's easier to get.
Somebody says, well, maybe I need to take a look at this.
Bandwagon. It's the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And if they know that there are people out there pushing for it, and that there are people who are going to support it, they're more likely to want to sign on.
Well, let me ask you this, John, before we go any further. Do you do this by yourself? I mean, a lot of people are probably saying, how easy is this for some, if somebody's out listening right now, they may say, wow, this is a great plan so far. I love being
It is
able to do this.
drop dead simple.
How
You
easy
got-
is it for you? Do you have an assistant
You
that
got
helps you
one
do
of
some
the, I don't know
research?
if you can see it there. You got one of these,
I
okay?
have a cell phone. I have
Your
two.
cell phone, yeah.
A cell phone and a selfie stick. Another good thing to have is a voice recorder.
Oh, we've lost your audio entirely now.
John he's there, and some sign language. Maybe put the grill out there and do some smoke
Yeah,
signal.
okay, the wind died down there.
Yeah, there we
I
go.
just had a gust of wind come through.
Yes, so if you can protect your mic a bit from that, that'll work. So go
Yeah.
ahead and back up again to Bob's point.
Anyway, what I was getting at was that the camera, the other thing you need is the handheld voice recorder. And I'll
Right.
take that voice recorder and use it like a microphone. I'll go to me and then go to him, go to me, go to him.
Right.
And I do that. You don't need to, but it gets you better voice, it gets you better sound.
It depends on your technical capabilities and the type of device that you might
But
have.
you can do it with nothing more than a phone
Right.
and a website. You go to their website, you get their email address. You talk to, a lot of times you're going to talk to a gatekeeper before you get to the candidate.
Right.
One of the things that I've done is a little sneaky. You look and see who's who the registered website owner is, and sometimes that'll be his cell phone number. So
Okay.
you never know, but there's all kinds of ways to get through directly to them if you do just a little common sense research.
Sure.
Let me run this question by you real quick. Do you find it's easier, or would you recommend that people start out with challengers, or easier to talk to about the FAIRtax, challengers or incumbents? I know it may vary in individual races, but just in a general overall sense.
I think challengers
We've lost your audio again. One more time.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
A little bit, yeah. Try
Okay.
again.
Yeah.
Amazing that the sound quality is so different from one side of this table to the other. I'm sorry. I had to bring that up.
I think it's died down.
I love the Zoom backgrounds.
Yeah, I think the challengers are probably easier because they're looking for things that will give them a leg up.
Yeah.
Incumbents are sort of sitting back and, well, yeah, I'll have my assistant take a look at it.
They've been there. They're in Washington. They know what the game is,
and they know that once you're an incumbent, it's very, very difficult to lose. We had an incumbent here in one of our districts that I was working with, who nobody seems to like, but
he keeps getting reelected.
He keeps getting reelected, and what can you say? So.
Well, that's a lot to do with name recognition too, familiarity.
He didn't even want to return my call. So
of course
that's all of the challengers at least returned my call.
Yeah.
And the incumbents, I had trouble getting them to even return the call.
If I'm remembering correctly, most of your challengers, if not all of them, did sign on with the FAIRtax, and none of the incumbents did. Am I remembering that right?
That is correct. Well, there's only one incumbent, but there was in District 2 to replace Kevin Brady, there was a hand-picked, rhino candidate that the party picked. I say rhino, the establishment had picked this guy, and they threw tons and tons of money at him. They had the biggest super PAC to support Republicans made a $600,000 ad buy a week before the election. So he was not the incumbent, but he knew going in that there was very little chance that he would not win.
Let me take another little tack here with you. Suppose you're face to face with a candidate who has never heard of the FAIRtax, doesn't know anything about the FAIRtax. How would you recommend for people to, what's the best way to introduce a candidate who doesn't know about the FAIRtax to the FAIRtax and then convince them that it's a good thing to run on?
Okay, this is where doing your homework before you go pays off. You find out who what he supports. Well, if he is big on border issues and illegal immigration, well, fair tax hits the illegal aliens with 23% tax that poor working Americans don't pay.
Try that again. Your audio cut out again.
Okay. If you are dealing with someone who says, let's say, he supports the border fence and illegal immigration issues to stop illegals and all this kind of stuff. Well, you can say, well, Joe, the fair tax hits those illegal immigrants with a 23% tax that poor working Americans don't have to pay because they get the rebate. The
basically say you're basically going to be tying in their particular platform pieces.
The fair tax, if he's a jobs candidate, tell him about the fair tax.
It really wins in Texas.
Yeah, I got out. I was already tearing down my studio because we're selling the house today. So
I know, right?
Yeah, it was kind of I thought, well, I can come out here. It's not supposed to be windy, and now it is. Anyway,
something outside with audio, it's going to be gale force winds up to 65 miles an hour sustained. So you've heard of Murphy's Law. Well, I go with O'Toole's corollary. That's
O'Toole's corollary says Murphy was an optimist.
Yeah, I've heard that. So again, folks, sorry about the audio issues. There's not a whole lot we can do about Mother Nature there. We'll work through it as best we can. So
I would be in my studio today, but it's half torn down now.
If you're mentoring, John, if you're mentoring someone and you're telling them how to approach a candidate with a fair tax, you tell them to force to do their homework and then try to tie the fair tax into stuff that they've already, said is important by what they've mentioned on their website.
Right. If they have some issues, fair tax.
One more time.
That the fair tax ties in so many issues that it's easy to find something that a candidate is already in favor of because of how the fair tax ties into everything, ties into jobs, ties into illegal immigration, ties into the economy in general. It's whatever they
the retirement issues.
Retirement. Anyone that says no IRS, that's right there. I don't want the IRS. I want a flat tax. Well, I can go in a minute and show them how they're still going to have an IRS with a flat tax. If someone says he supports a flat tax, he's easy one to go with.
Do you find, John, in the people that you talk to when they're talking flat tax and you're talking fair tax, what is it more, we really don't know what the difference is between the two? We think they're interchangeable. What's the other? The flat
some
tax
of them do. Some of them do. Some of them don't like the idea of a sales tax, but most people that are supporting a flat tax are supporting it because they've heard about it. And we haven't got our word. Our noise out there isn't as big as their noise. So
Steve Forbes was a big flat tax supporter, wasn't he? Quite a long time ago. I remember hearing him.
Steve Forbes was a big flat tax supporter, and he got the word out. And the other thing is that the establishment of both parties tends to like to push on the flat tax whenever they see the fair tax being talked about a lot, because they can take a flat tax. Look, Reagan got us down to two rates.
Right.
What happened as soon as he left office, within the first year, Bush Senior gave us the third tax bracket, and we kept going back up and back up and back up. Flat tax won't stay flat.
Yeah. Ron Valero always called the flat tax the lobbyist's full employment plan. If they flatten out the tax rate, then that just means they go right back to buying all the favors that they put into the other one. And people don't understand that there should be another word between flat and tax, flat income tax. So
and there's over 158 million unique taxpayers. And I say unique because if you have to fill out other forms, for partnerships or something like that, I'm talking about unique taxpayers, 158 million. And that's 158 million tax returns that have to be audited.
You explode the number of people that participate in the consumption tax or in the collection of tax through the consumption tax, cash register, retail, the services, et cetera. What is the number, Bob? It's like triple, isn't it? Like up to 300 and some odd thousand. Is that what the number is for people that would be considered consumers?
Oh yeah, I mean the entire
300
population of the
million,
United States are consumers.
Yeah.
Yes,
so anytime you go buy something, and again, travelers from overseas, you're going to have international visitors that come into the country on vacation or for business that are going to be contributing to that tax as well. John, I wanted to ask you a question too about when you finish up with as part of the process, when you finish up talking to one of the candidates, how do you follow up with them during the campaign? And then have you gotten to a point where you've been able to check the pulse of that person that you had sign the pledge to find out where they are in terms of temperature and excitement?
I have had just as the wind's been down, it comes back up. I've had candidates who have signed the pledge and called me 3 times in the next week, saying, okay, I was asked this question. What would you suggest? How do we address this? And immediately I say, well, did you look in chapter such and so? And I flip the book through. I say this area talks about it. And the next thing you know, there's something that's missed. He understands it, but they all, most of them at least, want to know more. If they're signing the pledge, they now want to know more. I make sure they have my phone number, my email address. I put it into my phone so I don't just see 713 123 5 6 7.
You have it identified as somebody that you talked to.
Joe Blow.
Yeah.
Jonathan Houlihan is an attorney, and because he's an attorney, he wants to know everything about it.
Sure.
And he was on the phone with me several times trying to find out about it, and just to make sure he understood every little detail. And that's one of the things with going with the challengers, is that the challengers want to know because they're trying to find a way to get over that incumbent hump.
If you go to the FAQ at fairtax.org, the FAQ there is a really good resource for folks. If you read that, beginning to end, then you'll have actual questions in your mind and the answers there too.
Yeah,
John, let me ask you this: do you think that folks in the candidate, and I am being the guy that listens to this show and says, I can be just like John Gaver in my district. The follow-up part is key, I believe. And if you have the accessibility to go beyond your own knowledge, the person who's actually doing the legwork like you are, to be able to say, okay, I see what you're talking about. Hey, I've got a question. And the guy calls back and he's got a question. And the candidate has, you have to follow up with him. Is it safe to say, Bob Paxton, that we can, and with like a Randy Fisher, is there a way that we can create a network around this process that gives the person in any district USA a little bit of a support mechanism beyond read the book, here's the chapter, need an instant answer? I think the response time to those key questions from candidates is going to be important. Is that something that we can offer as part of the organization of volunteers that have greater knowledge than even I do? You see what I'm saying? I just,
Oh, you're talking to me or Bob? I thought you
well, I
said
just am
talking to
throwing
you.
it out there.
Bob. Okay. Well, one of the things before we get into that, one of the things you said brought up something.
About 3 minutes here, guys.
If you're going to get the book, make sure you read the book at least twice and understand it. Don't read the book because they're going to ask you questions. Yeah, it's
The book, I heard read the book 3 times.
Yeah, right. But know what's in the book so that when they call, answer the questions. Now, as far as getting people together, I can be part of that. But can we get
I
enough
understand.
people
I mean, I
to do
just
that?
want to make sure that the folks that are being like what you're doing, that they have enough confidence that they can call Bob Paxton or call or Randy Fisher or someone that, if they step up and say, hey, I want to do this in my district, the information that you've provided today has been phenomenal.
Contact me on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah,
I'll
that
respond.
would be that way. And I think Bob Paxton would say he'd be available, and Randy Fisher, I think through the messenger service there at the FAIRtax Facebook would be a good way for the folks that are going to do like you're doing, John, to help out in their district. And Bob Paxton, let's give them the link if we can point them in the direction of the grassroots corners that Jim Bennett put together to be able to read this and follow up through the written word.
Yeah, we'll do that. I say you had the whole 4-part series, and we got about a minute left here, guys. So, John, let me thank you for joining us. Audio problems and all, we do appreciate your time, and good luck in selling the house. So,
yeah,
well, thank
I got a
you.
feeling it's going to go pretty quick.
We think we're probably going to start getting offers. They start showing tomorrow, and we'll probably start getting offers right away.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your expertise on the FAIRtax, for your efforts on the behalf of the FAIRtax and getting candidates to do it. So, folks, you can do it. You can approach candidates. You can introduce them to the FAIRtax. You can get them to like it, and then we just got to get those folks elected.
It's easy.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. This is great. This is great.
Right.
I want
John,
to see everybody that's out there doing this.
Read those articles. Read those articles.
All right. Hopefully we can have you back sometime when you've got your studio back together. And that's going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank everyone so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Bob Scarborough.
And I'm John Tabor.
Reminding you again that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you will
demand it.
So what would you do for her?
We've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may, with the FAIRtax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month. On everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be